I'm 32 years old and I just realized that I don't really have a life. Hey guys, it's Leanne and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about how I realized I had no life as a 32-year-old and what I'm going to do about it going forward. And also, if you're someone who's struggling with that feeling of having no life too, I'm going to add some advice at the end of the video. So stick around if you want to learn, like how you can add some life back into your actual life. Basically, I'm going to share with you how I'm trying to get a life. I also wanted to give props to the YouTuber. I'm going to tag her video in the caption. This YouTuber is who inspired me to make this video today. Where do I start? I think I'll start with when I moved to Georgia, because the last time I feel like I actually had a life, it was when I was in California. I moved to Georgia in 2017 to get my master's degree at University of Georgia. It's been like a 7-year roller coaster, to be honest. All of my connections, all of my friends, like everything, all that I knew was in California. And I was just kind of uprooting my entire life to move to the opposite side of the country. Like, what? There were a lot of nerves that came with that move, and I definitely can share more about that experience in another video, but it was daunting. It was daunting to move to another place and just not really have like friendship connections. So I graduated with my master's in 2019. I ended up getting my licensure in October of that year, and I was out in the workforce, and that's kind of when it started. The only thing was that shelter was like an hour from where I lived, and that was like without traffic. It was just an hour, drive. And I had to do it like every day except for I think 2 days out of the week. And just the work that you have to do, it was long days. It wasn't like it was like an 8-hour day. It was like 10 hours sometimes. And I was, taking on something new. Obviously, freshly out of grad school, so still like making my way, learning how to even be a social worker in the real world. I ended up working at that shelter for a little under a year. I was determined. I was like, I'm going to be a school social worker. I know that's what I want to do. I had my last internship was at a school district, and I knew that this was what I wanted to do. I love the collaboration. I love working with kids. I love working with teachers. Like, it was just, this is what I wanted to do. And then around 2020 in March, when the pandemic hit, is when I started to search for other jobs. So I started searching for a job in 2020, and I think I got an interview around April. And literally that same day of the interview for the school, I was offered the position. And the rest is history. I've been there ever since. So I started that job in July of 2020. Okay, that's just a little backstory. But I just wanted to remind you of what we're talking about today. We're talking about me not having a life, right? And all of those things that I mentioned to you, I don't think you heard really anything about me going out, me really dating, me really doing anything. That's because I really didn't. That 7-year period, it's 7 years now. At the time it was, I want to say like 3 years. I really didn't do a lot, my main focus was, do this grad school thing, get your master's. Then it was study for your licensure, get your licensure. Then it was, okay, let's get your job. We need to get money so we can get paid. And then the next step was okay, we're kind of done with this job. We want to do something that's going to actually feel really fulfilling and also is not going to work us to the bone, but also allow us to live our dream of moving to Atlanta. That's kind of, where I was, in 2020, I, had moved in with my now really good friend, and we had a place in Atlanta, and we were basically just kind of navigating the pandemic and our work, at the same time. Was doing, virtual, and then virtual school social work, which, what does that even mean? Especially when you're new to a field and you're new to a district and you're new to a job. What does that even mean? What does that mean? And I was navigating that for the next 2 years. So even when we started going in person, it was just trying to navigate and find my place. It was just challenging. And the fact that we weren't in person for half of the year, when I think of work, I think of obviously creating those relationships with your coworkers, with your clients, and that's how you get that social kind of, give and take. And we just didn't really have that for that first half of the year. So Yeah. I basically, like, the past, like, 4 years now, I've really just been focusing on work. Um, I will say that I did get kind of burnt out with the dating thing, like the online dating stuff. So that's just why that really hasn't popped off, as they say. And I'm truly so tired by the time I get off of work that I just don't go out. And so there was really no place for dating. And there was really not a lot of time to make new friends. Let's kind of rewind. Before I moved out to Georgia, I would say that my social calendar was pretty full. I graduated in 2014 and moved back home after college. And then I decided to join a Bible study. And my Bible study, like, I met like one of my really good friends, Tia. And so that's just been amazing. Like, I met her, I met so many other amazing people that were just like, truly, I don't think they know the impact that they had on my life at the time. It was like I found my community. I had community. It was like, we would go out to eat or we would just like hang out. We'd have like our Bible studies, all of that stuff. Like, so I had people to go to if I just needed like something to do or just needed some encouragement. Like, I had community. And then moving out to Georgia was like a little hard because I was like, what am I going to do? I don't have that anymore. And then I found some community in Athens, and then I decided to uproot my life again and move to Atlanta. So, flashback to now, or flash forward, I guess. I am 32, and so obviously I work in the schools, so we get our breaks, and I found myself this year just kind of reflecting a lot about like who I am and what I want to do. I have been in therapy, I think, for 3 years up until like a couple months ago. And a lot of what we worked on was my depression and my anxiety and like how to kind of navigate those things and how to kind of find myself again because I continuously compare myself to who I was in 2017, which is something I don't know that I've ever said out loud, but that's what I'm always thinking of. Whenever I think of my best self, I think of that person, which is crazy because my best self is somebody who's like evolving and growing, and that person didn't even know like what it would be like to move across the country and to just change their life like that. So it's funny that that's the kind of like target that I'm setting for myself, even though right now is like probably the best version of me, which is kind of cool to think about because of my anxiety and depression being so high. And I believe that a lot of it was due to just like changing my entire life. Like, in the span of like a couple years, and just a lot of different challenges that came with living on my own and like trying to be an adult and trying to be self-sufficient. I do think that my anxiety and depression really did kind of it definitely heightened. I'd always had it, but I think it was like I got to a really really big point, I think in 2017, 2018, especially because I was in grad school, and grad school is just a lot of pressure. I've been out of school for like 3 years, and I was going back to school, writing papers again. Like, it was a lot. Because of my depression and anxiety, if you don't know, depression is really something, I'll say for my depression, it was something that was long term, something that would kind of like always be lurking beneath the surface. And then when stuff started to become like a little too much for me, like when I was like too anxious, my depression would kind of kick in and be like, oh, let's not feel anything and let's just like be chill, and but not really chill, just sad. I basically, my depression kept me from wanting to do a lot of things. Actually, no. My depression didn't keep me from wanting to do things. My depression kept me from doing them. I can't even count on my hands how many times I would tell my therapist, I want to do this. I want to join a dance class. I want to start going back to the gym. I want to like start going on dates more. I want to like start traveling more. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to da 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 da. I always said I wanted to do things, but because of my depression and just like the burnout that I was experiencing through my job, I just did not have it in me to even try. I just would rather stay in bed and watch TV. And that's not really a life. I wanted to also add some more things into my life because it felt a little bit lacking. I was on a break, I think it was spring break, and I had no plans. Granted, my funds were a little low, so that's why I couldn't really do anything. But I probably could have done something, like gone somewhere. I did have people, but sometimes they're busy and I really, I didn't have like a ton of people. Like, I couldn't just be like, hey, you want to hang out? Or hey, you want to hang out? Like, And not only did I have like limited kind of resources in the fact that some people were just busy or just had other things going on, I also just like wasn't in the mood to do things. Like I just didn't have energy. I just was like kind of just talking to my therapist about the fact that I just did not have a life. Like I didn't have anything going for me at the time. Like nothing going on. I was like, what am I going to do? Like what does it look like for me to start to have a life? So if you are someone who is struggling to figure out like what to do so that you can start having a life, one that is more fulfilling, one that, you know, allows you to go out there and do the things that you really want to do that maybe you've been putting off for any type of reason, whether it's mental health, whether it's just finances, whether it's just circumstances. These are some things that I have learned to do for myself in the past couple of months that I really do think have enriched my life and allowed me to kind of figure out how to start really living and not just kind of like sitting around and kind of rotting in bed. Start with one thing, just one thing that the future you will thank yourself for. For me, starting with one thing looked like joining a gym again. I had been in a gym for a while and just been paying it. I want to say it was like a year and a half. I'm not even kidding. Like it was bad. I was paying this monthly fee. It wasn't huge, but it was a fee. And I never went to the gym. Like I knew I wanted to move my body because I've always been someone who's been into like yoga and even just like moving my body a little bit. Up until I moved, I'd been going to yoga classes regularly, doing like body pump classes, which is like weightlifting classes at my gym, and just like being at the gym. Like I would be like, okay, I'm gonna, you know, after work head to the gym, and I actually would go. Like I would go regularly and I would look forward to going. I just stopped doing those things. And so I recently joined a gym. Technically it's an athletic club, but if you want to learn more about this athletic club, you can look at the video I posted last week. I joined an athletic club and they had classes, they had a pool, they had a sauna, they had like just gym equipment that I could use. It was an environment that I really enjoyed going to, and I was like, this is an investment, but I think it's worth it. I truly do see an improvement in my mood, in my like mobility, and just like my body feels better. I also started cooking for myself at home again. We're still working on it. That's one thing that I feel like if I keep doing that, even if it's just going to my athletic club gym, I know my future self is gonna thank me for that, because I'm gonna like feel better mentally, I'm gonna feel better physically, and even spiritually, honestly. Like truly, yoga has been a really great way for me to learn how to meditate and really sit and take time to be with myself, be with God, and just like recalibrate. Something else I would say that really has helped me in terms of figuring out like, okay, what am I gonna do? I don't feel like I have a life, has really just been telling the people around me that care about me. So friends, coworkers, my family. I've always been someone who tends to isolate when they're feeling down or feeling depressed or anxious. And I still definitely do that, like absolutely. That's just kind of my MO. But what I would say is if that's what you are feeling, I know I felt it, like sometimes I just try to push through it, because every time I push through it, I'm not even gonna say like sometimes when, every time I push through that feeling of wanting to isolate and not be around my friends, it's like the best time ever. And it's like nothing special. Like we're just literally sitting around watching a movie or sitting around like, you know, at the pool or whatever. And every time I do the thing that I dread, it always makes me feel better. It just makes me feel like, oh, I'm not alone. Like I can get out of my head for a minute. I can just be around people who like me, you know, and who care about me and who want me to be there, you know? And so that just really shifts my mindset when it comes to just socializing. So I would say that like that was one of the biggest things, is just being honest and upfront with the people who care about you. And I talk to my mom about this all the time too. Like I'll just be like, hey, I'm feeling really lonely, you know, and just share like with her. And sometimes she'll give me some advice and sometimes she just listens. And then, you know, that's really all that I need. There are people around you who care about you, and sometimes it just takes a little reflection to remember who those people are and to reach out to them. I know it's hard, but I promise it's like definitely worth it. Like I've never, like again, I said, never regretted ever saying yes to a social thing and actually going. I think something else that I also learned was investing in myself financially, but also mentally, physically, spiritually, all the leads. I think it kind of goes back to like doing that one thing that will thank you. But for me, like, in going to a gym or having going to a nice gym that I really like and I want to go to costs money. That's an investment. Also costs time, because if I'm like, you know, at the gym, like sometimes I just want to stay home and watch a movie. Granted, I could watch a movie at the gym, but sometimes there's nothing that really compares to being in your bed and watching a nice movie, cuddling with your dog. But it's an investment in time. It's an investment in my health. It's an investment in my mental health. So sometimes it just takes investing in myself, and in different ways. Like I talk about this a lot, which I'm obsessed, but obviously, like in that last video that I posted, I shared a lot about me becoming a Walt Disney World annual pass holder, which I never thought I would be, but I am, and I'm so excited about it. So that was also obviously a financial investment, but it's an investment into my future. Again, something I will thank myself for. And I invested in my future mental health because I knew that I know what my job is. I've been doing it this is my 5th year. I know it's going to entail a lot of hard work. I know I'm going to have some secondary like trauma and some like compassion fatigue and a bunch of burnout just because I like to be involved in my school. But I also wanted to remind myself that like I need to take breaks. I need to get out of my space and take breaks. And so me investing in an annual pass allows me the freedom to go when I want to go and when I need to go. So I would say if you're struggling to get yourself a life, invest in yourself. Oh yeah, and I'm going to a speed dating mixer next weekend. And so I decided to invest like $20, and I'm going to this event in Atlanta. It's like a speed dating event, and I will definitely share my experience because I've never been on a speed dating like experience or whatever. I've never done it. So I decided like I'm going to take a risk, and I'm going to invest in my dating life and go to this speed like dating event. And it wasn't a lot of money, but I know it's gonna, like, when the day comes, like, I don't know if you know this feeling, if you're not an introvert, if you're not a homebody, but you know when the day of something comes and you're just like, oh yeah, I'm not doing that. I literally put it in my calendar as saying, please do not skip, because past me is like, look, future me, I know you're gonna want to skip because A, it's scary meeting new people, B, you've never done this before, C, you're like, what do I even wear? And then D, like, it's just easier to stay home. So I told myself, do not skip this event because you never know who you might meet. It may not be your future person, but it could be a really cool friend, or it could be just someone who connects you to someone who might be your future person. So it's worth it to try. Invest in yourself. If you have some things that are going on in your area, even if it's a virtual thing, just try it and see what happens. And I will definitely keep you posted. I already said it on my video, so I have to keep the promise of going. Sorry, future Leanne, you're going. So I think that's one of the big things for me too, was just like, okay, I'm gonna invest in myself and do this thing. And it's kind of scary, but I also feel like it's me doing something that future me is gonna thank me for. The last thing that I would say that really helped me kind of figure out how to get a life was taking my time, but also making a move. Like I said, I've been in Georgia for 7 years. I really didn't feel like I found my stride up until maybe couple months ago. Still working on it. I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but I'm working on it. I do feel like it's a huge improvement from where I started. I feel like I'm constantly being pushed to grow. I may not want to grow because I hate change, but I think it's always a good thing. Like, growing is always good. Change is inevitable. So whether or not I go kicking and screaming or just walk willingly, it's gonna happen. So I might as well embrace it. But I would say for a while, I was really just digging my heels in the sand. My therapist, we had multiple conversations about me getting out there and doing something. And I would say, yeah, I'm gonna do it. And I never did. It took me a long time to get here. And I had to start being patient with myself. I had to start saying to myself, okay, you wanna do these things. I know right now it's hard to do those things, so I'm gonna let you take your time. I just want you to kind of build yourself up to thinking about doing them. One of my professors in my program used to say, how do you eat an elephant? And then we would all be like, huh? And then he would be like, one bite at a time. I had to realize that it might not happen overnight. It may not happen in a year. That's just the reality of it. It might take a while for you to work yourself up to it, But at the same time, I had to remind myself, eventually you're going to have to make a move. And when the time came that I felt, okay, I'm gonna just do one thing, just one thing that I think I can actually stick to, or even just try. Maybe I don't stick to it, but I tried it. And I can say I tried it. And it was good or not so good, or meh, I might try it again. So I feel like just being gracious to yourself, like take your time. It might take you a while to find the thing that really like ignites your spark back. It might take a while, but you will find it. You just have to give yourself the chance and the space to do it. And although it might take you time, the most important thing is to just move on it. Even if it's not like the perfect or ideal situation, just move on it and see what happens. Because maybe you'll learn something that you would never have learned, or experience something you would never have experienced if you had not taken that first step of just trying. I want you to reflect on what I've shared, and if any of it resonates with you, maybe just like start jotting down some things that like you can start doing, like just one thing that your future self is going to thank you for. Or also just like start writing down things that you've been just thinking about doing, even if it's like a one-time event like the singles mixer or whatever. Like maybe that's something that you try. I definitely have more to say on this topic, but if any of this resonated with you, I would love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear if you were someone in my shoes and are now someone who feels like they actually do have more of a life, a social life. And also if you're someone who's maybe in my shoes right now where you're kind of like, I don't really know, I'm trying to make a move, I'm still kind of figuring it out. I want to hear that too. No matter where you are on your journey of getting a life, I want to know, and I want to like hear your feedback. Make sure you like and subscribe if you liked this video, and leave a comment if you want, and I'll see you next time.